In the past 3 years, Fred again has made a name for himself as the post-COVID face of dance music. From his early bangers to last year's monumental Bolier Room set, it would be easy to say that his rise to popularity has come overnight. But take a deeper look and you'll see that Fred Gibson is no upstart, but he's definitely the modern face of the rave.
Fred! Introducing Fred again! Let's go!
Well, welcome back to another episode of Who the F***, the show that aims to take a deep dive in some of the acts performing across festival season in 2023. Today's episode is one of my favourite artists of all time, I'm really glad that I managed to get to do a video about Foles last year. I'm really glad I managed to get to do a video about Kate Junada last year. But being able to do a video about Fred again, that's a massive one for me. He's absolutely brilliant, and in the last few years has just absolutely exploded. So in today's video, we're looking at part one, everything up to the end of album 1. I don't know when we're going to get part 2. We'll have to just kind of play it by ear. So without further ado, if you've never heard of him before, hopefully this video will help answer the question, who the f*** is Fred again? Fred John Philip Gibson was born in Balham, South London in 1993. Fred's story starts much earlier than his debut release in 2019. Prior to this, he had an entire career as a songwriter and producer. At 16 years old, he joined the a cappella group ambient musician Brian Eno, who happened to be a neighbour of his. By the age of 21, Fred was labelled as a co-producer and songwriter on Eno and Hyde's project Someday World and High Life. In 2015, he would collaborate with Kieran Hebden, aka Fortet, to help produce the album Bleeds by legendary UK rapper Roots Maneuver. Fred has a production credit on multiple records, but the standout for me absolutely being Don't Breathe Out. And it's really here that you can start to hear the sound that would become associated with Fred again. He would continue working on massive pop acts, collaborating with people like Ellie Goulding, Charlie XCX, Stefflon Don, Lil Mix, Jax Jones, Rita Ora, and even BTS. But it was in 2018 that he struck gold with his first charting success as a co-songwriter on the massive Shotgun by George Ezra. Then, in 2019, he was credited with writing and producing 12 of the 15 tracks from Ed Sheeran's No. 6 collaborations project, including I Don't Care with Justin Bieber, Beautiful People with Khalid, Remember the Name with 50 Cent and Eminem, and A Monster, Take Me Back to London with Stormzy.
So take me back to London.
In August 2019, we would get one of the first releases. There's a few others on SoundCloud, but the standout one for me is him sampling Billie Eilish's famous Vogue interview, this time auto-tuned over a bed of synthesis and a 4/4 beat. It's here that we really start to see the light bulb moment go off in Fred's head. But it was in September with the release of the record Julie that not only did I start to pay attention, but you can see that Fred realised this had legs and was going to be a much bigger project. The record samples an Instagram post from radio DJ and sister to JME and Skepta, Julie Adenuga, singing in her car while sat at a red light, and it's just absolute perfection. I don't know what song it is that she's singing, so if anyone knows, then let me know in the comment section below. I remember Annie Mac saying it when she did her radio show, but I can't remember what it is. Should have written it down. In November, he helped Stormzy put out his second album as a songwriter on records Pop Boy, Big Michael, and the massive Own It.
Own it, girl, you just own it, 'cause your body's on fire.
He wrapped up 2019 by releasing his most defining record, the insanely beautiful Kyle, I Found You. The record samples Kyle Tranmere's poem Love in the Time of Undeath. It's about meeting this girl for the first time, describing the bar as though it's like a war zone. A music video for some of his friends was shot at Hackney Wick Station in 2018, inspired by Adam Magyar, the actor's visuals for the record. Fred said, "The idea was that the video would come first, and then I'd make the song about the video." Who would have guessed that it would make such a banger? He followed this up with the beautiful Marnie, Wish I Had You, this time sampling a video of his friends singing to their baby Marnie. about the record, he said, "This was a lovely moment where my friend was singing Baby Marnie to sleep, and it just had this beautiful feeling, and this song needed to happen after that, really. Marnie is my spirit animal, and this is the closest thing I've made to what I want to make." That last line there says everything. These two records were part of an EP called Actual Life, and acted as somewhat of a diary. In April 2020, he released a mixtape entitled Gang with legendary British rapper Headie One, and the mixtape is 8 tracks long and features the likes of FKA Twigs, Sampha, but it's with the track Smoke with Jamie XX that really stood out for me.
Smoke, dust, fumes, drugs.
He closed out 2020 collaborating with a star-studded lineup of artists including AJ Tracey, Toddler T and Headie One on one of my favourite records of that year, the remarkable Ain't It Different.
Ain't it different?
In November 2020, he puts out the third single taken from his debut record, the sensational Julia Deep Diving. The music video showcases him writing the record on a train platform, something that gives him immense motivation and inspiration when making music. In an interview with Zane Lowe, he talks about how it's this ongoing window that moves and changes, and that in itself adds to the music for him. This kicked Fred into album mode, working towards something much bigger. He launched in 2021 with a record that would soundtrack the COVID-19 pandemic with the outstanding Maria We've Lost Dancing. The record samples a FaceTime conversation with the iconic DJ, The Blessed Madonna. When they talk about the record, they say, "Maria and I met in Palestine about 5 years ago now. I call her my rave shaman. I think she's that for a lot of people too, to be honest. Her ability to tell stories and share things has always been a particularly beautiful part of her beautiful mind. So I guess it just makes sense that I ended up making a song out of sampling one of our conversations. She's a real hug of a human." That's a really lovely way of talking about someone, isn't it?
We've lost the hugs with friends and people we loved. You know, there has been so much loss.
This was followed up with a collaborative bootleg with Joy Anonymous of one of my favourite records of 2020, the stunning Stay High by Brittany Howard. In April 2020, he released his debut album, Actual Life, April 14 to December 17, 2020. The record built on what his debut EP set out to achieve and was positively received. Loud and Quiet gave the album 8 out of 10, saying, "Fred's music combines recorded clips with ghostly nocturnal house beats to create poignant tracks that are distilled to their purest strength. He zooms in on isolated moments of genuine expression, resulting in tracks of heightened impact. The goal is to experience life more completely, as if living in slow motion. It is art imitating life." It was absolutely one of my favourites of 2021. It's an absolute monster. It felt like the most perfect record to end the pandemic with, especially with the little vocal samples of Friends. It had that kind of, I don't know, it's a perfect storm of the time, I guess. It also ticks so many music boxes for me. It's absolutely brilliant. The album featured 4 of the previously mentioned singles, as well as standout records Dermot and Me. Dermot uses a sample of Irish singer-songwriter Dermot Kennedy, and the music video brilliantly showcases Fred's friends coming around his flat drinking Guinness and rum, while he stays completely sober, smashing it out on the piano. In the video's description, he says, "The video really was a beautiful time. Aside from everyone getting absolutely licked while I was basically sober, it also kind of became about a different thing to what I thought." While Heavy is a record that departs from the rest of the album, it's a much slower record, and it's the only song not to feature a sample. It actually reminds me of like an Enrique Iglesias ballad, but cool, with Fred singing all of the lyrics entirely himself. The video really encompasses the emotion he's wearing on his sleeve while sharing the music with us.
I'm so tired of being strong.
That was making a tune with Manji the day we did this video, and literally you can ask him, like, for the whole day I was like, man, I'm right on the brink of tears. Like, everything I did, I was like, oof, mate, we are seconds away here. And he was like, come on buddy, let it go. But for some reason it didn't happen. So then by the evening, when I had to sing this fucking song into the mic and put myself in that whole place, I was absolutely cliffhanging onto myself. So with that context, the fact that I managed to hold it off until the end of the song basically is actually kind of alright, I think. The song's clearly about a traumatic time in his life. It's a moment that he alludes to towards the end of the Zane Lowe interview, and the record is just one of my favourites that he's ever made.
I found you beautiful.
So there we go. That's Fred again. I think that that's a nice place to end episode 1, part 1. His second album, and going into Actual Life 3. There's a couple of samples, some great features. Of course, that amazing Boiler Room set. We'll get to that the next time he plays a festival that I see him at. Don't know when that'll be. Might be a long time. Could be later this year. I hope it's the latter. I would really love to see him again. He's just an absolute beast. I'm so excited to see him play Laneways next weekend. Such a legend. Anyway, are you going to check him out? Have you seen him perform before? I'd love to know what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.